live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Tuesday, August 9th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game as well. So it's very easy to play. In any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're just going to pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, in baseball tonight, it could be stolen bases. It could be the number of hits. It could be the number of runs scored. Could be the number of strikeouts that a pitcher gets. And then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into that contest. And if you're right, you can win anywhere from 2 times all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason I'm excited about this new over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I can join in with my buddies and we can all play together. It has this built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who keeps winning is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody's on the same stuff and writing it out together. So stop what you're doing now, get over to Sleeper, download their app, play in the new over-under game, have some fun with your friends, and then make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can go to sleeper.com/FTNBets. And Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. So again, go to sleeper.com/FTNBets and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for those details. Today, we're going to keep rolling on with our NFL team betting previews. And we are up to, let's see, where are we at now? We are in the AFC North. Last show, we did the Cincinnati Bengals, the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. And now we're going to do the team that is actually the chalk to win the AFC North this year, which is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens last year finished the season 8-9. They played, 5 games, I think, without Lamar Jackson there last year. So maybe having Lamar Jackson, hopefully for all 17 games this year, will help change that and put them above. I know that a lot of people are projecting them to be above that 8-9 record that they had last year, and they are projected to get into the playoffs, which is something that we'll talk about here in a minute. So for us, our projection for this number, you can go over to FTNBets.com, type in FTN Bets, type in win total projections or Jeff Ratcliffe win total projections, and it'll pop up at the top of your Google machine right there. 10.2 wins is what Jeff Ratcliffe has the Baltimore Ravens projected to win this year. So again, that's a little more than 2 wins above what they had this year. That's going to be a jump for them, but it's not something that you don't understand. If you realize that they played 5 games last year without Lamar Jackson, although they did okay in some of those games, you can see how this team could definitely take a step forward this year. They were a team that a lot of people were expecting to win the AFC North last year. If you guys remember, Cincinnati was kind of a dark horse that came out of nowhere, a young team that people thought was still a couple years away, but they took a big step up last year. But the Ravens are the favorites this year, and I think probably the rightful favorites. The win total number you can get on the Ravens, it's strange out there in the market because you at 9.5 wins, the best number I could find is -150 on DraftKings, which means they're giving the Ravens a 60% chance to get over 9.5 wins this year. So that's not really it's the consensus number, but at the moment, it's not really the midpoint, right? It's not really the number where it should be. And then you go up to 10.5 wins on BetMGM, and the over is +125. So that is a massive difference. That's a 75 basis point difference from going over on DK at -150 and going over on BetMGM and getting a payout of +125. So I feel like BetMGM is the number that's kind of off here. I think other numbers in the market adjusted. I think this went at 9.5 and was like -120. Now it's all the way up to -150. The +125 that MGM has at 10.5 wins. If you believe that number on other sites like PointsBet and DraftKings, that's at -150 for 9.5 wins is the right number, then you should probably see, I don't know, at 10.5 wins. I mean, you're probably looking at like even money or a -110. So to see this at +125, it just 75 basis points is a lot to go from one win there. So I think that MGM over 10.5 wins, which would mean they have to get to 11, which is a big jump from last year, but not one that I don't think they can handle, would be the way that I would want to play it if you're playing the over there. That +125 number feels like the number that's a little bit off here. You can get under 9.5 wins at plus 130 over on PointsBet. You can get under 10.5 wins at minus 120 over on FanDuel. So, that's why I said if minus 120 over on FanDuel for the 10.5 wins, that would mean that the over should be probably about even money, right? Like even money at over 10.5 wins, probably where it should be. Just another reason why that MGM number at plus 125 is about 25 basis points too high from where it should be based on where the other numbers are in this market. So that's definitely a wrong number. That's definitely something you want to hop on as long as they leave it out there. If you're a Ravens fan right now, go get that plus 125 at BetMGM because I do not think that number is going to stay around very long. Like I said, every other book basically adjusted this number in the market. For some reason, MGM has just been slow to adjust it there. So also means good things for the Ravens that people are, that high on them winning 10 or 11 games this year. So Ravens fans should be happy about that. So let's move on and talk about the AFC North right now. AFC North, the Ravens, like I said, they are the favorites to win the AFC North. The best price we can find in the market on them right now is plus 160. FanDuel and MGM both have it at plus 160 for them to win the AFC North. Every other book out there has it at like plus 150 to plus 160, plus 150 to plus 155 everywhere else. So, you're getting an extra 5 or 10 basis points by going over to FanDuel or MGM. And remember, if you go to FTNBets.com/sportsbook, it's down in the description of this podcast here. You can see all of the bonus money that all of these, online sports books are offering right now. So if you don't have one of the books that we talk about here and you want to play a certain number, you could also probably get either a deposit bonus or a risk-free first bet or, whatever the current offer is. And all those offers are on that FTNBets.com/sportsbooks page. Get you all the best offers out there in the market from all of our sportsbook partners. So let's see. Let's go on and talk about them to win the entire AFC this year. 11-1 is the best number you can get on the Baltimore Ravens to win the AFC. That is at BetMGM and Caesars as well. Whoa, BetMGM, man, BetMGM is hating on the Ravens here. I don't know. They must be, that must be a company that's in like Steeler country or something that they're hating this hard on the Ravens. But it seems like every one of these numbers is the best over on BetMGM, meaning that BetMGM must be lower on the Ravens and whatever models they're using to price things out here than any of the other books right now. So anyway, Caesars and BetMGM do both have it at 11-1 for them to win the AFC. It's 900 to 1,000, so 9-1 to 10-1 on the other books that are out there in the market. Interesting thing here as well for the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens to be the number one overall seed in the AFC for the playoffs. Plus 900 on Sugar House and Bet Rivers. So you could play that over there too if you're interested. I don't know. I mean, listen, I like the Ravens, but I don't think the Ravens are better than Buffalo. It's arguable if they're better than Kansas City. You have a good team like Denver that might make some noise this year. There's just a lot of other teams. The Chargers could eventually put it together. I know we've been saying that for like a decade right now, but probably even longer than a decade right now. But it is what it is. I just feel like there's a lot of competition here. So the Ravens at 11-1, not really a number I'm in love with here. Super Bowl number for the Ravens, 22-1 is the high number that you could get. DraftKings and Caesars have them at 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. It's 18-1 to 20-1 on all of the other books that are out there in the market. So, you're getting an extra 200 to 400 basis points by heading over to DraftKings or Caesars if you want to put money on the Baltimore Ravens to win. I don't think it's a crazy number. I think that I don't like betting on the chalk because I always feel like the chalk is a little bit too low from where their actual odds should be. And I don't like betting on the long shots because most of the long shots should really have odds that are longer than where they are. But the teams that I like are the teams that are like kind of in the middle there. Like I don't want to bet on the top 5 teams and I don't want to bet on the bottom 5 teams. But if there's a couple teams in that middle section there that I like, I feel like those are usually the ones where, you get a little bit of a closer price to what it actually should be. Like their actual odds of winning, their actual chances of winning, and the odds that are being offered on that chance are usually the closest together. It's usually really far off at both of the extremes over there. And that's, something that goes along with any kind of pricing scale and anything in sports betting as well. So keep that in mind. So let's see, what else can we talk about here? We talked about the playoff number. We talked about the playoffs, but we didn't talk about the number yet. So let's do that next. Will the Baltimore Ravens make the playoffs? Yes, is minus 156 on FanDuel. No, plus 137 on Sugar House and Bet Rivers. So Again, they're giving them over a 60% chance to make the playoffs on FanDuel. FanDuel being one of the sharper books out there anyway. So that's good news for Ravens fans as well. Very good chance for this team to make the playoffs this year. And really, as long as they stay healthy, very good chance for this team to make a run and make some noise. I mean, just because I didn't want to bet on it doesn't mean I think it's a crazy number to have them at 11-1 to win the AFC or 22-1 to win the Super Bowl there. Like I said, I think those are actually pretty decent values. It's just, I'm not a huge backer of the Baltimore Ravens, so this is not a number that I'm going to take, but I don't think the number is wrong. I think it's right about where it should be there. So that's definitely some things to think about. Ravens make the playoffs, -156. It's like -150 on some other sites there. So, it's right around there, -150, -160 range. And the no +137. Again, I like the Ravens. I think they will make the playoffs, so I'm not going to be betting against it. What you're really betting on here is like a Lamar Jackson injury, right? That's probably the thing that would wind up curtailing this the most. So that's what you're kind of playing against there. So let's see. Let's go on and talk about some of the individual player props here for the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll start with that man that we just mentioned there, Lamar Jackson, 2019 NFL MVP Lamar Jackson. And you know what? Let's start with that MVP number. 20-1 is where his MVP number is basically everywhere. The guy's already won an MVP award. So 20-1, I think is a very appealing price here. So let's go back and look at that number in 2019. Let's look what he did to win that MVP award. 3,127 yards passing. It was by far his career high in passing yardage. 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. His best touchdown to interception ratio by far too. And that's a big thing that we're going to get back to later. The touchdown to interception ratio, the total number of interceptions that a guy throws, something that I noticed when I was looking at, hey, this has become a quarterback award, MVP, right? Like the MVP basically goes to a quarterback almost every year. Occasionally a running back will sneak in. Hell, if Cooper Kupp didn't win it with the season he had last year, I mean, sorry, wide receivers, but you're not getting MVP trophies at this point because I don't understand how a guy could be that good, win the Triple Crown for receiving and not win the MVP. That's just a little bit crazy to me. But this is a quarterback award right now. So, most of the time you're going to need a guy that throws for like 4,500, 5,000 yards, 40 plus touchdowns. But Lamar Jackson is graded a little differently because he has a different skill set than a lot of these other guys. In 2019, when he won his MVP award, again, 3,000 yards passing is not something you normally see in the current era of football for the guy who's going to be the MVP. You're normally going to see, like I said, closer to 5,000 yards, let alone well over 4,000, not 3,100 and whatever I said before, 27 yards or something like that. 36 touchdowns, that is big. 36 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. That's the kind of numbers that you need. You look at like Aaron Rodgers when he wins his MVPs, he wins them with like 7 or 8 interceptions. I think Matt Ryan, when he won his MVP, was like 7 interceptions. The quarterbacks that win tend to have a very good touchdown to interception ratio. Guys throwing 30, 40 touchdown passes, maybe even 50. We've seen guys do that too. 30, 40, 50 touchdown passes and doing it with like 10 interceptions or less. Because then you have this really good like touchdown to interception ratio. Again, Lamar Jackson, when he won it, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 6-1. You look at some of the numbers that Aaron Rodgers has put up, 5, 6, 7-1 on some of these touchdown to interception ratios. That's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand. You had a guy like Jameis did a couple of years ago. Oh yeah, he led the league in passing yards, threw for however many touchdowns. We just had like 20 something interceptions. And that's the problem there. You don't want these guys that throw for, hey, he threw for 35 touchdowns this year, but he also had 15 interceptions. Well, that's a horrible ratio. You're giving the other team opportunities to score, almost twice as often as you're giving yourself a team to score. Whereas there's other guys that are doing it, like I said, 5-1, 6-1 on the touchdown interception ratio. So that's something you're gonna have to look at there with Lamar Jackson this year as well. And then the rushing yards too. When he won the MVP, he rushed for 1,260 yards. He was basically like having 1,000-yard rushing running back in there, and also a guy that could sling some passes around as well, and did it efficiently, scoring a lot of touchdowns that year when they were doing it there. So, he had 7 rushing touchdowns that year. And I think this is why I want to talk about this, because this is what I think you need to get another Lamar Jackson MVP. You're going to need that 1,000 yards plus rushing. You're going to need over 3,000 yards passing, which, again, he's only done once in his career. So it's not like it's an easy feat for him. You're going to need that 5-1, 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So no more than maybe 8 or 9 interceptions. And you're going to need to throw, again, if you throw 7 or 8 interceptions and you want to have a 5-1 ratio, you're going to need to throw 35, 40 touchdowns. I think you need to get about 40 to 45 combined touchdowns from Lamar Jackson between his legs and his arm this year. Again, when he won the MVP, it was 36 with his arm and 7 with his legs. That's 43, right in that 40-45 range. Again, there's a reason why I picked that range there, because this is the range that happened for him. Because you're also going to have a guy like, Josh Allen might throw for over 4,000, 4,500 yards this year and still run for 700 or 800 yards. So if he runs for 700 yards and throws for 40, 42 or 45 or whatever he did last year, which also I think he was robbed of MVP last year. But anyway, when you look at the numbers that other guys are going to put up, like in order for him to stand out, this is really what Lamar Jackson's going to have to do. And at 20-1, I think he can do it. I think there's some value in that number, but I wanted to give you guys kind of the overview of the things that Lamar Jackson would need to do, because we're about to talk about some of those individual numbers and you might not like what I have to say about them. So the first number up is going to be passing yards, 3,500 on FanDuel. The over is -112. That's the best place to play that one. MGM has 3,550 yards with an under of -115. And again, in his MVP season, he threw for 3,127 yards, played 16 games. So even if you add one more game to that, that still puts him under 3,500 yards. He's never done this before, so I don't know why the number is so high here. I really like the under on passing yards for Lamar Jackson this year. Give me the under on BetMGM, 3,550 yards. I like that under at -115 quite a bit here. One of my favorite plays, right after I just talked about how I don't mind sprinkling a little bit on his MVP number. But yes, I do think he throws for less than 3,550 yards. Passing touchdowns, 24.5. This is a tough one for me, and this is a number that I think we should stay away from. And I'll tell you why. For his career, he's only averaging 21 touchdown passes per season. Now, again, 84 touchdown passes, 4 seasons, whatever. It is what it is. He's gotten over this number twice. He's gone under this number twice. He went over 36 and 19. He threw 26 in 2020. Again, he only played 12 games last year, but he only had 16. So even if he played 16 games last year, he was only on pace for like 21, 22. So I don't think this is a great number to take. Can he go over it? Yes. Can he go under it? Absolutely. And if there's really no way to say, hey, I like it more this way or that way, we just kind of stay away from it. So again, if you want to play this number, 24.5 is the passing touchdown number. FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM all have that number right there. DraftKings has it -110 to the over and the under. So whether you want to go over or under that number, DraftKings is the best place to play the passing touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. So the thing that I wanted to talk about here, I can't talk about because I cannot find a rushing yardage prop for Lamar Jackson. I was hoping it was going to be somewhere in like that 850 range where I could have taken the over it. I was on DraftKings today looking again, and like they do have quarterbacks, right? Because they have Kyler Murray rushing yards listed. They have Josh Fields rushing yards listed. So it's not like they don't list quarterbacks, but for some reason they just don't have Lamar Jackson, who I would think is the one guy that everybody wants to search up and bet on here for, a quarterback with rushing yards. But again, could not find the number for that. It will come out eventually, and we will talk about it over at FTN Bets when it does. So make sure you guys get over there. If you guys want to get over there and get a jump start on your NFL research and be ready for when NFL season kicks off, get over to FTNBets.com right now. Go FTNBets.com/pricing. You can find it down in the description here. And here's a little trick, whether it's FTN Bets, FTN Fantasy, if you guys are getting ready for your season-long fantasy drafts, or FTN Daily, if you're going to be playing on DraftKings and FanDuel and Prize Picks and all of our other partners over there. Any one of our sites, any one of the packages that you sign up for, use promo code Benny, BENNY, and you save 20% off on whatever package it is. So if you want to go test something out, try something out for a month, see what we have to offer, see what kind of tools, see the analysis, see the picks that everybody's making over there, go check it out. Use promo code Benny, save your 20% off, keep some extra money in your pocket. Go over to the promo page there and take advantage of all of our partner offers where you'll get a bunch of free bonus money for all the sites that you sign up for. And you know what? You're going to be ahead of the game and ready to go on September 1st when we all start putting bets in and everybody gets ready for the real start of the NFL season after all the preseason games are done. So let's see. What else can we talk about now? Let's talk about some of the pass catchers here for Lamar Jackson. There's 2 guys I'm going to talk about. We'll start with Mark Andrews here because he had a stud monster season last year. 125-1 Mark Andrews to be Offensive Player of the Year over on BetMGM. It's as low as 70-1 on DraftKings. So if you're a huge Mark Andrews backer, the guy did have a monster year, which we'll talk about here in a minute. 153 targets, 107 catches. What did he have? 1,361 yards, 9 touchdowns. Just absolute monster numbers that were put up last season by by Mark Andrews there. So again, offensive player of the year, 125-1 on BetMGM. I mean, again, mortgage the house and put it on it? Absolutely not. But if you got, a free bet for 10 or 20 bucks and you're a big Mark Andrews guy and you think you could do it, that 125 number on BetMGM is definitely a good number to throw some money on. Like I said, it's almost half that. It's 70-1 on DraftKings. So, 125 is a good deal there. Let's see. What do we have here for some of the other Mark Andrews numbers? 950 yards receiving. The over is minus 112 on FanDuel. Under 1,049 yards receiving, minus 115 on BetMGM. It's interesting because the only season where he really went over, monster yardage totals was last year. Before last year, again, it wasn't bad, like 700-800 yards, which is great for a tight end. But, this guy's getting up there, 1,000 yards, 1,050 is the receiving prop. Like, that's a number I would not play over 1,050 yards on any tight end, including Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. I just think that's a monster number. I mean, maybe he does repeat the year he had last year. I think more likely he's going to regress a little bit, and not because anything is wrong with him or anything. Like, he just had a really, really good year where everything just kind of clicked there. Now, again, he is the rare tight end along with Travis Kelce, and maybe you can make an argument for like one or two other guys who is the number one pass catcher on their team, maybe like a George Kittle or, Kyle Pitts could be in that discussion as well. But so, I mean, again, if you're looking at it that way, like 150 targets, that's a lot of targets. That's wide receiver target volume there. So maybe it's interesting, but I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of yardage. Like I said, I know he had 1,300 last year, so he could even miss a game or two and still get there with, that kind of production. He could miss like 3 games, 4 games and still get there with that kind of production. I just think that he played above his head last year. I think his baseline is closer to 1,000, which makes this a decent number, but not a number that I want to play. So if you do want to play an over, get the FanDuel. It's only 950 there. That's why I would play the over. If you're going to play the under, BetMGM at 1,049 is the highest number out there. And they're both like minus 112, minus 115. So, again, just take the highest number that's being offered or the lowest number if you're betting the over. Touchdown number 8.5, pretty much at every site that has a touchdown number for Andrews. Now, he did have, what did he have last year? He had 9 last year. He barely made it over. He had 10 one other season, maybe 2019. That might have been the other year. I think it makes sense. I think it was probably the year that Lamar won his trophy as well. So he has been over this number twice, but he's also been under it twice in his career. And that's, not really a number that I want to bet on. Again, he made it by half a touchdown. The other time he made it by 1.5 touchdowns. Not like he's blowing by this number. And with 2/3 of these tending to come to the under anyway, you got to really love something to take an over. And I don't really love Mark Andrews, so I'm going to be staying away from that. 83.5 catches. If you're going to take an over, this is the other over that I like here. 83.5 catches over. But here's the deal. I actually didn't take it. It's over under minus 115 on BetMGM. DraftKings has it 1 catch higher, 84.5, but they're paying plus 110. And I like the 84.5 over at plus 110 more than I like the 83.5 over at minus 115. And again, yes, 84 is a bigger number than 83. And I just said, if you're playing an over, you want to take the lower number, but the payouts are different. The 83 over is paying out minus 115, which means you got to lay $100 to win 100. The payout on DraftKings is, what did I just say was plus 110, right? So at plus 110, you really only got to lay like $90 to win 100. So again, I think it's a much better deal there because, you're getting a much better payout there. So I'll take the extra one. If it lands on 84, you know what? That's just bad luck. And sometimes that happens, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Take the over 84.5 at DraftKings. That's the better number to play because that payout is plus 110. So, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, like I said, Andrews did have 107 catches last year, 1,361 yards, 9 touchdowns. I kind of feel like that's his ceiling numbers. That's going to be like one of the numbers that we compare his best seasons to. So I don't really want people to think he's going to take a step forward on that. I think if anything, he's likely to regress. Now, again, I don't think he's going to regress unless he gets hurt down to like 50 catches and 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, but I wouldn't be expecting him to reach that same peak that he had last year. I think that's probably his apex there. So the last guy we're going to talk about real quick is Rashad Bateman. Again, I mean, you got to think about it this way. Like his 2021 numbers, he had 46 catches, 515 yards, and 1 touchdown. But he was a wide receiver too on that team, right? You look at his snaps. He played 67% of the snaps versus Marquise Brown, who's the wide receiver one, who played 75% of the snaps. He had an 11% target share. Marquise Brown had a 23.7% target share from when he was out there. You did get a little bit of a higher ADOT. Marquise Brown had 11.1 yard ADOT, which again is not like the highest in the league. He's probably like 30th, 40th, something like that. Like it's high, but it's not, it's not like, oh my God, like that's such a difference that they're losing there. Bateman's was 8.8 yards last year was his ADOT. So again, he saw some shorter targets. You're going to have a higher catch rate, but he did have a higher catch rate. He caught about 68% of his passes versus Marquise Brown, who only caught about 62% of his passes. But again, when you're seeing more of those shots downfield, those tend to be lower percentage plays that get, completed less often. So, maybe that makes up for some of the difference, but I don't think there is a massive difference. There's a difference in the way they go about doing things, but I don't think there's going to be a massive difference in the targets, right? So, Bateman last year, who only saw, what did he see last year? 67 targets. Marquise Brown saw 145. Bateman could see 125, 130 targets this year as the wide receiver one on this team. So, you look at what he did last year, 515 yards. Well, if you're basically giving him double the targets than he had last year, if you double the yardage, then he's up around 1,000 yards there. So 825.5, I don't think is a massive number. I actually prefer the over there. So minus 112 on FanDuel is where you can get that over. If you want to play an under, DraftKings has it at 850 yards and 850.5 at minus 115, and BetMGM has it at 849.5 at minus 115. So I know it's petty, but if you're going to play the under, take the extra yard, go to DraftKings. 850.5 is the under. Like I said, I kind of like the over in 825 yards at minus 112 on FanDuel. I think that's a good price and a good number for Rashard Bateman. Let's see, Rashard Bateman touchdowns. FanDuel has it at 4.5, over minus 112, under minus 115. He only had one touchdown last year, but Marquise Brown did have a lot of touchdowns, and some of those touchdowns are going to go to Rashard Bateman. I don't think all of them are going to go to Bateman. So, do I think he gets over this number? Maybe. I think this is a good number, though, because my projection for him is 5. So over 4.5 on FanDuel would put him at 5, and then under 5.5 on DraftKings also puts him at 5. I think 5 is the right number. They just changed the payouts on it from, higher or lower for overs and unders. It's not a number that I want to take. I think we should avoid that number because I do think it's a good number. Reception, 71.5. I mean, this is a number I actually think could be a little low here. You can take the over or the under at minus 115 on MGM. I kind of like the over here because, again, he did have 46 catches last year, and that was on what we're expecting to be half of the volume that he sees this year. So if his catch rate stays the same and he sees 130 targets, he's going to wind up somewhere around 80 catches. So again, he could even miss a game or two or have a really bad game or two and still get over this number based on his projection. So I don't hate the over on his yardage, and I don't hate the over on the 71.5 receptions for Rashard Bateman. Minus 115 BetMGM is the way to go. I kind of gave you guys all the numbers for Marquise Brown because, again, I think Marquise Brown is the better comp. Marquise Brown the last couple of years is the better comp for what to expect from Bateman. Again, not the same type of player, maybe not the same ADOT, and maybe not the same, deep downfield coverage, but at least the number of passes that should wind up going his way in this offense as the wide receiver one. I think we're going to see a big bump on Bateman. And even if it doesn't get to the Marquise Brown levels, Hollywood Brown levels, it's still going to be way more than he saw last year. So expecting a big step forward for him and a guy that I like the overs for. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's edition of the FTN Betscast here on FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.